in Oklahoma. If you headed that way, which is west, you can eventually run into Rio Grande Street, which is named after our southernmost river in Texas, the Rio Grande River. It's our international border. Oh, I think I see some waxel waves coming up. First of all, on our starboard side, that's Antone's Home of the Blues. That's where Stevie Ray Vaughan used to play back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But on our port side, we're going to do a big quack a wave on 3, 2, 1, quack a wave. Oh, we got the waves back. Everybody but the Cowboys fans. All right. No, just kidding around, y'all. All right. So, guys, these east-west streets, these are originally named after Texas trees. So this street was originally called Pine Street, 1 block north. It was originally called Pecan Street. However, they made so many of these east-west streets that they eventually ran out of those tree names, so they just went with the number instead. So nowadays, this is 5th, and right up there, that's going to be 6th Street. Guys, over here on our starboard side, we have the former home of writer O. Henry. He used to write puns, so you have a pun-off every year there. And right next to it is the former home of Susanna Dickinson. Y'all, she was a survivor of the Battle of the Alamo down in my hometown of San Antonio, Texas, back in 1836. She survived that battle and walked up here, and she built this house. This is where she married her 5th husband. He was about 20 years her junior, so she might have been robbed in the cradle. Yeah, that's Bob's type right there, but he's looking for one right now. But she might have been robbed in the cradle just a little bit on that one. But guys, she did start the first ice cream parlor here in Austin called the St. Charles House. It's over on 6th Street. But guys, do you want to guess what the most popular flavor of ice cream was back in the 1840s?
Vanilla?
Good guess. It was the oyster ice cream.
Oh.
Yeah, right? They used to do savory flavors of ice cream. Kind of strange, but they always keep Austin weird. So it's very weird ice cream. Now, guys, I do want to say, as we're going to be turning here on our port side on Red River Street, we're going to see out to our starboard side. I think some of you guys might have already seen this. There's a really tall building. It almost looks like it's done in 2 parts with some webbing around it. That's called the Waterline Building. It is 74 stories tall, making it not just the tallest skyscraper in Austin, but also the tallest skyscraper in Texas. Sorry to my Houstonian friends, we did one up you guys with the tallest skyscraper, but you guys still have all your pro sports teams. Now, guys, over here on our port side, we're going to have this very colorful looking building. This is called Esther's Follies. It's an adult-themed variety hour restaurant, so not for the little ones unless you want to do some family therapy afterwards. But guys, there's going to be all these lovely murals along the side here. These are aquatic-themed murals. That big pink fish up there, that's called an alligator gar. Y'all, alligator gar, we're going to be going over them on the lake. We're going to be talking about them on the lake, but we will not see them on the lake. That is because they are bottom feeders, so they'll be on the bottom of the lake, and we will hopefully be on the top of the lake. All right, guys. Let's get that guy a quack away right over here on the starboard side. 3, 2, 1, quack away. Thank you for what you do, sir. All right, guys, we're now turning onto 6th Street. And in between I-35 and Congress Avenue, this part of 6th Street has a bit of a nickname. Does anybody know what that nickname is?
There's a hamburger place.
I think we have some veterans on board. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dirty 6. So parents, families, if you're here on a Friday or Saturday night looking for some family-friendly fun for the little ones, this is not the place for you. It gets very adult-oriented later on at night, gets a little bit rowdy, but it is a historic street and has 33 different historic locations along it, some of which I'd like to point out for you guys. Over here on our port side, that's Pete's Dueling Piano Bar. That originally started as Patchy's Carriage Shop, where you could go to get a horse-drawn carriage, even a block of ice on a hot summer day. That's where Susanna Dickinson used to get the ice for her ice cream. Over here on our starboard side is going to be Cheers Sports Bar, just like the TV show. That's where Jenna Bush, daughter of George W. Bush, former president, got kicked out of in the early 2000s for drinking with a fake ID. Now, right next to that is going to be Museum of the Weird. That is fun for the little ones. It's a monster-themed museum. Now, speaking of monsters, though, we've got a werewolf right over here on top of bar 512. We've got a whole row of monster-themed bars. We've got the Jackalope, which is a rabbit with antlers. And then right next to it is the Chupacabra. Guys, you know what the Chupacabra is?
No.
Nope. You know what they do? Yell it out if you know what they do. Oh, they're blood-sucking monsters. Sounds like my ex-wife, but they've actually got a statue of one right over there. Looks just like her. All right, guys. So coming up here on our starboard side is going to be Comedy Mothership. This is a comedy store owned and operated by celebrity podcaster Joe Rogan. Before that, though, it was the Ritz Theater. It was a place where Stevie Ray Vaughan also used to like to play back in the 70s and 80s. We've also got Rapola's Pizzeria right over here. That used to be the St. Charles House. This was the first ice cream parlor in Austin, although if you wanted to go to it, you'd have had a little bit different taste than the modern taste for ice cream. By the way, Shakespeare Pub, that's where I used to go in college. I'd always tell my mom and dad, don't worry, mom and dad, I'm just studying Shakespeare. But guys, a one-man show over here. We got Scruffy's over here on our port side. We've also got on our starboard side, San Jack's Saloon. Like, I always like to bring up San Jack's Saloon because they play live country western music every night of the week. And Guys, here in Austin, we like to call ourselves the live music capital of the world. We have all sorts of different artists, bands, creators play at different music venues, our bars, eateries, also festivals. We have two really famous festivals. One is called ACL Fest that happens in Zilker Park every year between about the first and second weekend of October. And then we also have South by Southwest Fest, which happens every mid-March all around the city of Austin. By the way, Voodoo Donuts right over there, a place to get some wild toppings on your donuts. They're originally from Portland, Oregon. They like to say keep Portland weird. We like to say keep Austin weird. So it's nice that we share some weird donuts. All right, folks, coming up here on our starboard side, we have one of my favorite buildings. This is the Driscoll Hotel. This was founded in 1886 by cattle baron Jesse Driscoll. He made his money running cattle during the Civil War and moved down here and built this hotel. Among the famous things that have happened here, one of my favorites is right out on this front porch, right where that couple's eating right now. There was a famous first date back in 1934 between a woman named Claudia Taylor and a man named Lyndon Baines Johnson. Well, they must have really hit it off. They got married after 7 weeks. Well, Claudia Taylor changed her name to Lady Bird Johnson, and Lyndon Baines Johnson is also known as LBJ. He was our former senator, vice president, and then president of the United States. Also, some people do say that this hotel is haunted. The most famous ghost inside this hotel is said to be that of Colonel Driscoll himself. You see, 2 years after he built this hotel, he was playing poker with his buddies, and I guess he felt pretty lucky because he literally bet the house on a hand of poker. He lost that hand of poker and lost the house with it. They say that his ghost wanders the hallways late at night, chomping down on a cigar so you can still smell his cigar smoke as he wanders around looking for his lost lease. But guys, over here on our starboard side is going to be the Littlefield building. Folks, this was built by cattle baron George Littlefield in 1912. He wanted to be the tallest building in downtown Austin, at 7 stories tall. Well, as soon as he finished this building, the Scarville building was built right across the street at 8 stories tall. Well, Mr. Littlefield had a bit of an ego. He didn't want to be the second tallest building in Austin, Texas. So he decided to have 2 more floors added right to the top of this building. In fact, if you're on our starboard side, you can look up and see where the original roof line was located. Those floors were done in such a hurry that they're about 6 feet tall from floor to ceiling. It'd have been fine for me, I'm pretty short, but for guys like LBJ who had his senatorial offices up there, he was 6'3". He had to stoop over to get into his own office, although he took it in stride. He said that he'd like to invite his political rivals inside to his office, and whenever he get up to greet them, he had to bend over on them and make them feel really uncomfortable. Now, folks, over here on our port side, we have a statue of a woman and a knighty with no shoes on firing a cannon. That's Angelina Everly, y'all. Back in 1842, yeah, in 1842, this was the Texas Republic Archives, and then President of Texas, Sam Houston, he wanted to change the capital of Texas from Austin back to his namesake, Houston. He sent over the Texas Rangers in the middle of the night to go steal the capital. Well, all the noise awoken Angelina Everly, and she was pretty grouchy that she got woken up so late. So she came outside with the cannon. What she was doing with the cannon, I have no idea. But hey, welcome to Texas, right, y'all? Well, guys, she took a shot at those Rangers. Unfortunately, didn't hit any of them, but they decided maybe tonight's not our night to steal the capital. Maybe we should head back to Houston. And guys, over here on our starboard side is one of my favorite theaters in downtown Austin. Currently getting some much-needed restoration. It will be open later on this year, but this is the Paramount Theater. It was built in 1915. It's been home to several famous acts, including Harry Houdini, the magician, who is from Hungary, who performed here in 1916. Now, folks, right across the street on our starboard side is going to be the Chipotle Mexican Grill. Now, I'm not just bringing this up because it's Chipotle, but rather because this is the location of our first Austin Opera House. That one was built in the 1870s, however. They realized they made a huge mistake. You see, they put the horse stables to part a horse on the first floor. They put the opera house on the second floor. But when they opened it up, they realized that no one wanted to listen to the sound of opera with the smell of horses walking through the floorboards. So they actually tore down this building. This is now called the Brayden building, named after a prominent French family here in Austin. But they rebuilt the second Austin Opera House over on the starboard side of 9th Street. We're going to go by that, and I'm going to ask Captain Bob to slow down just a little bit so we can see that building. Because, guys, has anybody ever watched the show The Landman? All right, well, if you haven't, it's got Billy Bob Thornton, and have you seen it, Bob? Yeah, there's actually a scene featuring the Austin Club in there. It's a pretty cool scene, yeah. It's where they go to meet the fictional governor, right, loosely based on Greg Abbott. And guys, this was also a very popular opera house back in the late 1800s. In fact, it is the favorite opera house of famed 1800s air actor Edwin Booth. His younger brother, John Wilkes, he was more of a fan of the theater. History buffs on board? Okay, all right. Always got to check, right? Well, let's do a quacker wave right over here on our starboard side on 3, 2, 1, quacker wave! All right, guys, that building is the one with the white columns right out in the front. That's called the Austin Club. It's actually still open today. It's like a country club for downtown Austinites. All right, y'all. Coming up, we're going to see all these murals and paintings on our port side. Austin is a weird city. We don't just do it with music, we do it with artwork as well. But that's my favorite mural is coming up here on our port side. This is going to be a mural featuring 2 indigenous women holding a basket of flowers with some butterflies flying out of it. It celebrates our indigenous history here in Austin. We've had indigenous peoples living here going back about 10,000 years ago. The Comanche, Apache, Caragua, Lepon, Waco, so on and so forth that lived in these areas all the way up until the 1880s. Now, folks, if you look over to your port side, you'll also see some limestone blocks on the ground. Those are actually the original foundations of our second Texas State Capitol building here in Austin. During our time as a city, we've had 3 state capitals. The first one was located directly ahead of us, but that one burned down in 1881. They then rebuilt it right over here, this time much smaller and made out of limestone. Well, the people of Texas took one look at it and they said, no way, we're Texas. We do everything bigger, right? So when this one mysteriously burned down in 1886, we decided to build our new and still current state capitol, this time in 1888, directly ahead of us, made out of pink granite. This granite came to us from the Marble Falls area. We actually had to quarry out a structure that was about 800 feet tall. It was like a dome that was 800 feet tall of granite. You can still go to the Enchanted Rock State Park area to check out what those domes would have looked like in their kind of natural habitat. But guys, I also want to point out that there is a lamppost up here, and on that lamppost is a little burnt orange sign with a longhorn head emblazoned on it, and it's got the words Chisholm Trail beneath it. Now, folks, that is because this is where the old Chisholm Trail used to run. Back in the 1870s and 80s, this is where cowboys would have herded all those longhorns, shorthorns, and bullhorns all the way up to Kansas City and Missouri, and put them onto a train to get out to market. All right, folks, coming up here, we're going to take a stop right by this nice Texas oak tree. We're going to get to talk a little bit about the history of Texas and the Capitol building. All right, folks, I want to bring your attention over to the dome of the Capitol. If you look up to the top of the dome, you can see there's a Lady Liberty statue standing up there with a star in her left hand and a sword in her right hand. She makes this structure 14 feet taller than the United States Capitol building. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the largest Capitol building by volume in the United States, because, hey, we're in Texas, we have to, right? Now, if you look down the dome, you can see there's a U.S. flag and a Texas flag, and underneath that are 6 circles in a row. Now, just like the theme park name suggests, these are the 6 flags that have been flown over Texas. We're going to start on our left-hand side with the seal of Spain. The Spaniards showed up here in the 1500s and claimed us as part of Nueva España, or New Spain. And in the 1680s, the French showed up and claimed us as part of Nouvelle France, or New France. In fact, if you ever want to go to Paris on a budget, there's a Paris, North Texas. It even has a little Eiffel Tower in the middle of it with a cowboy hat on top. But y'all, in 1821, the people of Mexico had a revolution, and we became part of the Imperio Mexicano, or Mexican Empire. But in 1836, we had our own revolution. Y'all, for 9 years, we were our own republic, our own nation. Hey there, the Republic of Texas. In 1845, though, we joined the United States as a state of the Union, but in 1861, we left as part of the Confederacy during the Civil War. We lost that war in 1865, and we rejoined the United States, hopefully this time for good. Now, folks, if you ever want to take a tour of the Capitol building, you can purchase tickets over on the east side of the lawn. You can also walk through the lawn. It's free and open to the public. You can check out our different memorials. This one right over here is one of my favorites. It's the Texas African American History Memorial, and it celebrates the arrival of the Emancipation Proclamation into the harbor of Galveston. This is the event that created the freeing of the enslaved peoples of the southern United States, and also created the holiday that we now know as Juneteenth. Underneath that, we can see a visual timeline of African and African-American contributions to the area of Texas. We're going to start on our left-hand side with one of the first Spanish conquistadors to explore Texas. His name was Estevanico. He was a Spaniard, but he was originally from the area that we would now know as Nigeria, so he's African in origins. We also have some of our former African-American construction workers who helped to build the Texas State Capitol buildings. Over on the bottom right side, we have one of our famed pugilists or boxers, Jack Johnson. He was from the Houston area in the early 1900s. He fought people from all around the world and beat them pretty handily. We also have on the very right-hand side a guy named Ed Norris. He was a former astronaut for NASA. He was an African-American astronaut, and he was the guy that helped design this memorial. So he got to put himself inside his own memorial. Pretty cool, right? Now, folks, coming up here on our port side, we're going to see a large white foundation with a large white building. This is the Texas Governor's Mansion. This is where Governor Abbott, his wife, and his dog Biscuit currently live. Biscuit's actually a golden retriever. It's named after the honey butter chicken biscuit. It's a Whataburger menu item, but they call him Biscuit for short. He's actually had 3 golden retrievers. He's had Pancakes, Peaches, and Biscuit, but Biscuit is the newest iteration. So do watch out for a golden retriever running around the lawn. Sometimes they let him run around. run around down there. But guys, this building was built back in 1856 by architect Abner Cook, originally for $20,000. Folks, I will tell you, the house prices in Austin, they've gone up just a little bit since then, but it was built without air conditioning, so you can maybe understand why it was such a low price. But folks, there's rumored to be several ghosts inside this home. In fact, the ghost of Sam Houston, our former Texas president, was said to reside in this home. He actually passed away over in Huntsville, Texas, but I've never been to Huntsville. You can probably understand why his ghost might have traveled back to spend some time in Austin. But guys, I want you to check out the burn marks on the capstones of this wall. Back in 2008, apparently somebody had a bone to pick with that Governor Rick Perry. We call him Governor Good Hair because it was well-coiffed hair, but somebody came over here in the middle of the night and threw a Molotov cocktail over at this back wall and hit this back building, and it burned down about half of the mansion. Well, they later on rebuilt that half of the mansion, but they never caught the guy who did it. He's still on the land somewhere, maybe on the dock, right? Fortunately, though, no one was home that night. Governor Perry was on the campaign trail, so neither he nor his heir were injured in the fire. Now, guys, coming up ahead of us, we're going to take a portside turn onto Guadalupe Street. Now, if you speak Spanish or habla español, you probably pronounce this as Guadalupe. Well, then why do we call it Guadalupe? Well, folks, we here in Austin, we like to mispronounce things. So we're going to call it Guadalupe Street. We're going to call it Guadalupe, or the Drag if you go to UT. All right, guys, coming up on our starboard side is going to be the Human Marion Sweat Travis County Courthouse. This is a great place to go to get married by the Justice of the Peace. You can also go to jail here, depending on how your court case is going. But, folks, we named it after Human Marion Sweat because he was a UT law student in the early 1950s. But first, let's give a big quack and wave to the bride and groom. On 3, 2, 1, quack and wave. They say it's good luck to be quacked out on your wedding day, but folks, yeah, so Mr. Human Marion Sweat, he was a UT law student in the early 1950s. When he applied to go, however, UT Law said, hey, your grades are great, but you're an African-American student or a segregated university. You may not enter. Well, he didn't like that answer, so he got a lawyer, Mr. Thurgood Marshall, future Supreme Court Justice. In the landlord court case of Sweat v. Painter, the Supreme Court overturned separate but equal and helped to undo segregation for the southern United States. So we like to honor Mr. Sweat's legacy by naming this courthouse after him. Yeah, exactly. Oh, another wedding. All right, we're going to do another quack and wave right over here on 3, 2, 1, quack and wave. Congratulations. Right, all right. I think they do divorces too. But guys, right over here on our starboard side, we're going to have the Wooldridge Square. This is the former landfill that Mayor Wooldridge had dug up. He put in this beautiful lawn, lovely trees, and this nice little pagoda. That's where people getting married by the Justice of the Peace, like they go to take their pictures before their ceremony and all their finery. The people going to jail at the courthouse, they tend not to take their pictures down there. They actually get a free picture courtesy of the police. From all my history buffs, actually, Booker T. Washington, the early 1900s civil rights hero, he actually spoke at this patio area back in the year 1900. So there's apparently 10,000 people gathered around this area. And I'm really grateful for the advance of technology because apparently he had to yell really loud so that everybody could hear him. Nowadays we have microphones, so I don't have to yell at you, but you know, I'm grateful for that. Oh, do we have one of our AV ride delivery services? Guys, we have all sorts of AI technology. The most famous of which is called Waymo. They're AI-driven cars. They've been stopping on railroad tracks, going the wrong way down one-way streets, all that sort of stuff. So looks like they have way more work to do. But yeah, that's it's been a fun time for the people of Austin. And way more dangerous. There we go. All right. We have the Austin History Center at the Falk Library. And then coming up right after this, you're going to see a row of houses that looks rather French-inspired. That's because this is the Brabant district. The Brabant family was a French family from Paris, France that came over in the 1840s via Philadelphia and settled this entire area for themselves and their family. The centerpiece of this district is going to be the John Brabant Jr. house with this lovely wraparound patio and really ornate ironwork around the sides. The reason why you'd want a patio like that back in the 1880s because back then we didn't have any air conditioning. So instead of sitting inside on a hot summer day, and y'all, back in the 1880s, they used to wear like 3 layers of wool, cotton, linen. Even on a hot summer day, you probably want to go outside underneath the shade and catch the breeze. Even if the breeze changes directions, you can go to the other side of the house and catch the breeze there. But guys, if you didn't have quite the money that John Brabant Jr. had, because he was a very wealthy businessman, you can always do what the Fisher family right up here did. They built what's called a shotgun shack. So, folks, here's the way a shotgun shack works in Texas. there's a house, and it has a front door and a back door, and in between the two doors is a hallway. On a hot summer day, you would open up both doors, and that breeze would go right down the center of the house and circulate around the two sides of the house, almost like the lungs of a body, cooling it down by about 20 to 30 degrees. Although nowadays, this is actually a tuxedo rental shop, so if you're going to prom, this is the place for you. And I will tell you, the breeze worked a lot better back then when they built it because they didn't have any big skyscrapers next to it. So that really blocks the breeze, right? Yeah, they had a coffee pop-up there in case you're like, hot summer day, I want some coffee. All right, guys, now to our starboard side is no longer a historic building. Rather, this is the second tallest building in the city of Austin. This is the 6th in Guadalupe. It is 66 stories tall. Now, we're going to make it 67, but that'd be a whole nother story. Get it? Get it? Little dad joke for you guys. Also 6'7", in case you're a young person and you still do that, right? Did the young people still do 6'7"? 6'7"? No? Is it 7'8" now? No? Okay. Just making sure, all right. Oh, that guy has a bray on. He's very French. All right. Yeah, there's a little coffee store inside of here. There's also a place down there called The Kitchen, which is a place owned by Kimball Musk, brother of Elon Musk, richest man in the world. So it's a fair affair. But guys, we're now back on 6th Street, and this is a different part of 6th Street than the Jersey 6 bar. It's called West 6. It's a place known for sports bars, and if you watch the sports game, you can do it right up here on our starboard side at Woodrow's. This is a great place to watch the game, whether or not you're watching basketball, football, baseball, or the OG football, soccer, right? International Sport Corruption is what I like to call it. But guys, coming up here, we also have a beautiful mural on the side of the parlor yard, and also a place called the Walton's Fancy and Staple. This is a boutique grocery store that's currently owned and operated by Sandra Bullock. Any Sandra Bullock fans on board? All right, we're going to have some stuff about her along the way. Guys, also, if you look up and to the left, you can see a building that the locals like to call the Jenga Tower. Do you guys see why we call it the Jenga Tower? Looks like an unfinished game of Jenga, right? It's actually called the Independent. It's 58 stories tall. During those really bad rains last July, about a year ago, that floor that hangs out over the side, it fell out of the building. It actually fell out onto the sidewalk below. Fortunately, no one was around at the time. It was happened very late at night, but everyone went, Jenga, and they put the building back together again. I always like to say keep Austin weird, so it's nice that we have a weird skyscraper, right? Actually used to. A what? A chicken? Alright, I'm gonna have to figure that one out, but guys, we're now about to go over the Shoal Creek Trail. This is the oldest bridge in Austin. Don't worry, they've updated it since then. But guys, coming up on our starboard side is a red brick building called the GSDM PR firm. Back in the 90s, they're coming up with a jingle for a Texas restaurant chain called Chili's. The song they came up with goes, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. You guys know the song? Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, this is where they wrote it. Yeah, some very important Austin music history for you. We've got Janis Joplin, Willie Nelson, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and the Baby Back Rib song. They also came up with Don't Mess with Texas and Keep Austin Weird. So a lot of important Texas iconography right inside this building. In fact, if you ever meet somebody from Portland, they'll probably tell you, no, we came up with Keep Portland Weird first. No, they didn't. This is where they started it in the year 2000. Guys, over here on our port side is going to be the Whole Foods Market. I like to call it the Whole Paycheck. But guys, this started here in the 1970s. This is the third location. And it's become so popular, it's recently bought up by billionaire Jeff Bezos. So if you want your groceries delivered by drone, I've heard they're working on that. Go outside with a shot, shoot yourself down some dinner. A little Texas sci-fi for you. Now, folks, we're about to cross over Lamar Street. And Lamar Street is named after the guy who created the city of Austin, Marabou Lamar. He was a Frenchman from Georgia, and he was actually on a bison hunt down here in Central Texas in the 1830s. He shot a prize bison on what's now the corner of Congress and 8th Street. It wasn't back then. That would have been kind of weird if they already had the streets laid out. But he thought that that was such good luck that he wanted to start the capital of the Republic of Texas right here in what's now Austin. Well, he bought out the land from a bunch of people who had already named it Waterloo. So, guys, if you see something named Waterloo, we used to have a Waterloo Records right over here. That's where that name comes from, as the original name of Austin before they named it after Stephen F. Austin, the founding father of Texas. But, guys, during our 9 years as a republic, we had 4 presidents. 2 of them were relatively inconsequential, but the other 2 were a little bit more well-known. We had, of course, Marabou Lamar, but another guy named Sam Houston. Now, he was a senator from Tennessee who had a very raucous divorce with his first wife. And he decided to go live with his friends in the Cherokee Nation. Well, apparently he liked to party so much during that era that they nicknamed him Chief Big Drunk. They politely asked him to leave the tribe. Check it out, it's a rescue paddleboard, only in Austin, guys. Thank you, guys. All right, so he was politely asked to leave the tribe. That time with the Cherokee Nation, though, was immortalized by the movie Dances of Wolves. That Kevin Costner character is actually loosely based on Sam Houston's life. Well, he then went down to Texas and became a Texas revolutionary, Texas president for 2 non-consecutive terms. Also, he was a senator and a then governor of Texas before he passed away in Mexico. But during the middle of his 2 terms, was Marabou Lamar. Now, guys, I do want to stop and say that the most popular brunch spot in Austin. This is a very popular spot to get your sweets. We also have Howard's Bar and Clark's Oyster Bar. This is named after the guy who founded this area of Austin, Charles Clark. He was a formerly enslaved person who actually started this area of Austin as a freedmen's colony in the 1860s. So we still call it Clarksville in honor of his legacy. Now, guys, we're now on our way down to the lake, so go ahead and sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm going to put on a little bit of Texas music for you guys. This is a song, right?